Live on the Spreaker web radio and around Australia, New Zealand, UK and the US, it's On Air with Lachie, the Season 1 finale. Hello and welcome to the Season 1 finale of On Air with Lachie. My name's Lachie Harris and I'm your host. Tonight's topic is bullying, specifically cyberbullying and rumours. It's a relevant issue still in today's society, and in 2014 it was estimated around the world that approximately 84,927 people admitted to being victims of bullying, whether that be in social circles, through verbal exchanges, in the workplace, schools, or in the cyber world. It's mind-blowing and not in a good way. Joining me today is my good friend Thomas Warren. Thanks, Tom, for being on the show.
No worries, Lachlan. I'm happy to be here.
Before we get too deep into the show, I just want to gather some basic terminology. So, Tom, could you explain, please, what the definition of bullying is?
So I say, bullying would be the traditional things like calling people names, pushing them around, physical contact, that kind of stuff. Peer pressure is a big one, I think. So forcing someone to do something that they don't particularly want to do, but they may do it because they may think they can become cool or just want to be better friends with the people like that.
Can you just go through why people bully others?
Sure. I think there's several reasons. One is to feel superior, so you can feel like you've got power over someone. To feel part of the group. So if your group's kind of bullying someone, I think that would lead to you feeling part of the group, something maybe that you don't have. For attention, definitely. If you're in that group and you're doing it and you're getting attention, everyone thinks you're cool. I mean, that's how it's going to work. Jealousy might be another reason. So maybe you don't like someone, they did something to you maybe a while back and you're holding a grudge against them and you feel like to get back at them is to bully them, so maybe hit them every now and again. Boredom might be another problem. So you've got nothing else to do, you're just that big kid at school and you feel like, oh yeah, I'll just go bully the smaller kid because I've got nothing else to do at lunchtime.
Tom, do you have any personal experiences with bullying?
Not particularly with being pushed around or anything like that. However, peer pressure's been a big one, particularly in primary school. It may sound silly, but I was kind of almost peer pressured into excluding people from groups. So, there was always handball in primary school. I would always bring the handball. When we were playing, there was kids coming along, and I used to be like, oh yeah, sure, guys, come in. However, I had some friends who were maybe not so cool, and the other guys were like, oh no, don't let them in. And even though I wanted to let them in, I'd say no. And it kind of led down a bad trail for me. So I'd have people saying, oh yeah, do this, and I would do it. And I wasn't even realize I was being bullied, but it was the peer pressure that really, I thought, was and still is a big part of bullying nowadays.
Thanks, Tom, for sharing your story. Obviously, peer pressure is a big factor in bullying, and as you mentioned, it can create a lot of issues and make you feel uncomfortable when doing things that you don't want to do. I'm going to talk about my experience with bullying now, and it began throughout my primary schooling life. So for a while, there were a lot of physical altercations made by one boy who was apparently a friend of mine. I would be choked, shoved, and was called a lot of names. And I had a really close, and still have a really close relationship with my parents. So throughout this situation, I was keeping them up to date with what was going on. And they contacted the principal at the time, and the situation, I felt, looking back on it now and going through it, was not dealt with appropriately. I was blamed for the bully's actions, and while I was being bullied, the bully was being looked after. Eventually, one day, I had had enough, and I decided that I was going to fight back. And I did. I was hit with a skipping rope, so I got the skipping rope and hit the person and then kicked them in the guts. Now, my actions were not appropriate. At no time should I have ever retaliated in that way, because it's not what you should do, and I definitely do not condone violence at all. But anyway, eventually this bully left the school, but the bullying did not stop there. As I got into grade 4 and 5, I found that I had an interest in drama, musical theatre and singing, which were things that I was really good at. Though as a result of my interests, I was presumed to be gay because I wasn't interested in what the other guys in the cohort were into, things like, rugby and sport and that sort of stuff. This continued till about early grade 7. Having a support group of friends and family really helped me, and I was able to get up and get through the rest of primary school. And to be honest, I was really looking forward to getting out of such a toxic environment and going into high school. So, year 8 came, and once again, because of my interest, I was being bullied. Year 9, I had brief friendship issues, which turned into bullying. Year 10, I had severe acne, which I mentioned in the first episode with my friend Jade, and that did lead to me having extreme self-image issues, and I was teased about the way I looked and sounded due to other reasons. I also fell into a depression. Year 11 came, and it wasn't too bad, but I was still going through depression and was basically trying to reevaluate a lot of things that weren't making me happy in my life, and some of those things were friendships. This caused a lot of tension and drama between people, and that led to things being written on social media bashing my character. This continued actually into this year, and some of my friends were contacted by these people to try and get information out of them about me, and recently they decided that they would post statuses on Facebook alleging that I came out to my friends and family. I had heaps of people from my school coming up and asking me about this question that was posted, and it was really shocking. Usually when a rumour has been spread in the past, I choose to rise above and not confirm or deny it. But I feel that I should defend myself once and for all, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to make a couple of points. A, there's nothing wrong with being gay, but that I'm not. It's actually insulting not to me, but to those within the community that are actually gay. It's their way of life, and the expression should not be used to be vulgar or nasty at all. And B, I've actually not spoken to the people who have been causing me trouble in about 2.5 years, and they don't even know what's going on in my personal life, and all they know is what's going on publicly through my successful work showcased on the internet and on radio. So they posted that status to be malicious and derogatory towards my character, and it was incredible to see that, the extreme lengths that they went in order to be fulfilled and happy within themselves. So it just blows me away. And I know that I will never get an apology for their actions, but being the young, mature adult that I am willing to forgive them for their actions over the past 2.5 years. It's something that I need to do in order to have inner peace within myself and to grow and prosper within my life. I forgive them. As I mentioned before, 88,927 people admit to being bullied. Tom, do you ever think that bullying will stop?
I think bullying will always be in our society. I think it's been in our society since our existence. But it's never going to stop. There's always going to be that one person or that group that wants to feel better about themselves by bullying someone else, or even some people with the peer pressure. That's always going to happen in groups. And you're right. Unfortunately, it's sad, but there might be ways of controlling it. So through discipline at schools and stuff. But I think, just like you, it's always going to exist in our society, unfortunately.
We're going to talk about a sub-genre of bullying, and as we know, due to technological advances within today's day and age, Something called cyberbullying has become more prevalent throughout society. This can occur through emails, chat rooms, text messages, discussion groups, online social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, basically anything that can be accessed online. Tom, can you just tell us a little bit of your views on cyberbullying?
Cyberbullying can really affect your reputation from all people, and it's there forever for people to see.
That is the scary thing, that it's always on record and you can't control who can and cannot see it. That's what freaks me out, the fact that when people post things on social media, they can delete the post, but the thing is, it never actually goes away. People can recover posts whenever and however. And it's really, regardless of the fact of whether you deleted it on your page or not, it's really there forever. Do you know anyone personally who has, in fact, been cyberbullied themselves?
Yeah, something bad happened in my primary school. So what happened was someone got hold of someone else's MSN account, and that's what everyone used back then. They started calling people names over that. Since that other person was using someone else's account, everyone else thought that it was this person that was calling everyone names, sending them bad pictures, and they got a lot of hate for that. And while the person who had hacked the person's account had meant to call the other people's names, it affected everyone in that situation because, everyone's thinking different things about people when it's actually someone else.
I hear similar stories all the time about people whose accounts have been hacked by friends or by other people, and it can be very problematic, as you mentioned, and can cause a lot of tension and drama between friends. When I was going through planning for this episode, I met up with Tom, and we were discussing a few stories that he wanted to share. And one of the stories was about what he had heard before he actually met me in grade 8 or 9.
When I first met you, the stuff that people put online about you, or people had sent to me about you and stuff, you weren't there to see it. I'd actually thought that maybe you weren't someone I'd want to get to know, but I think in grade 9, when we started catching the bus together, I really actually started to know you, and I'm like, wow, this is actually a half-decent guy. So, I found out that by listening to those people, I wasn't meeting someone who was actually pretty cool about it all. So you really shouldn't judge a book by its cover.
I completely agree with your point there, Tom, because what you're saying is that before you knew me, you had heard what other people had been saying, and obviously it wasn't particularly nice. But yeah, you've learnt now through getting to know me that, what people had been saying was definitely irrelevant and not true. I'm glad that, you got to know me, and that I really think that you are a great person and you're an amazing friend to me. So thank you for giving me the benefit of the doubt, and thank you for getting to know me for who I really am. Some of you listening to this show may not know what to do. So Tom and I are going to give you some advice about how you can deal with bullying, cyberbullying, and rumours. There are a lot of generic answers that we hear today about ways to deal with bullying. But I want to know, Tom, what your ways were or are in regards to dealing with bullies.
Yeah, Lachlan, I found personally the best way for me to deal with it was to ignore it. So people would shout names at me, and even though I wouldn't like them, I found when I ignored them, I wasn't giving them the reaction they wanted. So by doing that, that would stop. However, I do know by personal experiences and friends I know that oftentimes this doesn't happen. So with friends, if it's friends, you can always say, "Oh, mate, could you please stop?" If they're a friend, a lot of times they'll stop. But if it's someone who may be doing it because they are a real bully, you might need to stand up for yourself in times like that, saying, "Oh, no, can you please stop that? I'll go to someone about it." Try not to get in a physical contact, because that rarely ever works and just kind of extends the conflict.
That is really great advice, Tom. But I'm going to add just a little bit more to what you're saying. And as you said, it's good to ignore them. Also, it's important that you ask them to stop, that you talk to someone. So